Today, I'll be sharing a theory put together by a Japanese reader. In this video, I'll be talking about the new information revealed in Chapter 1167, as well as some theories based on that information. First, let's talk about the newly introduced word, the land of the gods, the Knight's Temple, Shanghala. From this name Shanghala, many fans will immediately recall Shandora of the Golden City from the Skypiea arc. Shandora comes from Chandra, which means moon in Sanskrit. Combined with the hints that the Shandians originally came from the moon, it's very likely that Shanghala is also a place connected to the people who descended from the moon. Additionally, the red line where Mary Joey's is located was once home to the Lunarians, a race whose name itself contains the word Luna. If Shandora represents the right eye of the skull, then Shanghala might, in fact, represent the left eye of the skull. Next, we move to the scene from 20 years ago in Fishman Island's Urugu Kingdom, where Harold and King Neptune were shown talking. Their conversation was about their children, with Harold saying, "Here's to the futures of my mischievous troublemaker and your shaggy daughter." Neptune replies, "She's not shaggy," and from this exchange, we can finally say with certainty that the Mosa referenced in Loki's phone call was Shirahoshi. In Japanese, Mosa means shaggy. The fact that Oda went out of his way to include this moment in the Elbaf flashback strongly supports this conclusion. But the biggest shock in Chapter 1167 was the sight of Shanks living and operating in the Holy Land. We had heard from Shamrock that Shanks once returned to the Holy Land, but no one expected he had lived among the celestial dragons so openly. However, it's clearly not because Shanks wanted to enjoy the celestial dragon's lifestyle. So what exactly was Shanks' goal? To answer that, we need to consider when he spent in the Holy Land. I originally believed he had returned there after witnessing Roger's execution, then left to form the red-haired pirates. But what Chapter 1167 actually revealed is that Shanks was living in the Holy Land 15 years ago. Roger was executed 24 years ago, and we know Shanks had already formed the red-haired pirates at least 19 years ago. So here's the timeline. 24 years ago, Shanks witnesses Roger's execution and decides not to pursue Laughtail. 22 years ago, Shanks visits Syrup Village in a small boat, likely still gathering crewmates. Between 22 to 19 years ago, he forms the red-haired pirates. 15 years ago, Shanks returns to the Holy Land alone. 14 years ago, he heads to Elbaf and reunites with Gaben. 13 years ago, he attacks a government convoy and steals the Gomu Gomu no Mi. Shortly after, he meets Luffy in Fuchsia Village. What's fascinating is that Shanks was present during Harold's assassination incident in Elbaf 14 years ago. Was he already a Divine Blade or a Knight of God at that time? That's a huge mystery. Putting this timeline together, it's clear that after forming his pirate crew, Shanks went to the Holy Land alone, and then eventually returned to his crew. Why would he go that far? The answer likely lies in his left eye scar. In Chapter 1167, Shanks is shown with his left eye covered in bandages, meaning he was wounded by Teach shortly before heading to the Holy Land. Realizing Teach carried the will of Xebec and sought to become the king of the world, Shanks likely sensed an immense danger. He probably halted his pirate activities and infiltrated the Holy Land to gather information on the world's secrets. To approach those who sit above even the celestial dragons, Shanks used his birthright to gain access and acted alone. This makes perfect sense. So what information was Shanks so desperate to obtain? The answer is likely the truth about Nika and Joy Boy. 1 year after his Holy Land stay, he visited Elbaf, and the following year he stole the Gomu Gomu fruit. All of this leads to Episode 1 and one of the biggest unresolved mysteries. Shanks losing his left arm. Given Shanks' power, it has always been strange that he lost his arm to a Sea King, but now the theory that he let it happen on purpose is more convincing than ever. The reason? To erase the shallow sea pact sigil. We don't yet know exactly what that sigil does, but it seems to function like a curse, something he could only break by sacrificing his arm. In the Elba flashback right before Harold's murder, we even see Shanks bathing with Gaben, and the sigil is clearly drawn on his left arm. If it were easy to remove, it wouldn't be much of a contract. After being wounded by Teach, Shanks made a decision. He infiltrated the Holy Land to research Nika, then returned to the world below to ensure the third Nika would manifest. His entire behavior suddenly makes sense. Well, since Luffy ended up eating the Gomu Gomu fruit, the possibility of Nika awakening ultimately had to be entrusted to him. Everything Shanks has done since episode 1 has been part of a calculated plan. And with the Harold murder incident taking place just 1 year after these events, we're closer than ever to uncovering the truth behind many mysteries. So that's my analysis on the shocking revelations about Shanks in chapter 1167. What exactly led to Harold's death? What is the true nature of the royal family's devil fruit? There's so much more to look forward to in the coming chapters. And with that, I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and giving it a like. It really helps support the channel.